This program is for educational purposes only. The content is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any diseases, nor is it intended to take the place of your primary care physician. The statements in this program have not been evaluated by the FDA. Testimonials are shared as individual experiences, and the individual results vary and may not be typical. We do not make any claims regarding health or income. As an empowered individual, you do have options available. We are honored to have a founding father of the science of epigenetics guiding us with the best options to obtain or maintain optimal health. Dr. Joel Wallach. All right, let's go ahead and open up the doors to Daily with Doc. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Daily with Doc. My name is Becca Dukes, and I'd like to invite all of our listeners to join us here live most Mondays, most Tuesdays, most Wednesdays, most Thursdays, most Fridays here at DailywithDocZoom.com, as we are getting back into 5 days a week. Each and every week, we are so excited to be able to bring information to you that is empowering you as an individual, not taking away that power, but empowering you, giving it back. And by doing, or the way that we do that actually, is providing to you information and knowledge in how systems work, what causes them to not work, and solutions to help them function better. Well, today is Pharmacist Friday on Daily with Doc. So we are going to be having with us the one and only Pharmacist Ben Fuchs. But before we do and bring him to the screen, just want to remind everybody, if you were invited by somebody specific, make sure that you get back with them. They took the time and cared enough about you to share this program and information with you. So get back with them, tell them what you liked best about the program, and thank them. It doesn't have to be in that order, but definitely let them know that you tuned in to Daily with Doc and come back again. Now, if you're on any of our streams, we'd love to know where you're at and where you're tuning in from. So please drop us a like, a love, and tell us where you are joining us from. We are all around the world on many different platforms. And if there's not a way for you to chat and let us know where you're at and that you're listening, send us an email at info@dailywithdoc.com. That's info@dailywithdoc.com. That's also the email that if you're not working with anybody and you would like to be part of our family within Longevity, you can email us again at info@dailywithdoc.com. Now, today, we are going to be talking about some exciting things. We get lots and lots of questions. Lots of questions on what can be done for certain poor health conditions. Physically, at the cellular level, and also mentally. So for those of you who, get all tense and everything and have anxiety or have some type of mental whatever, what we put in our mouth makes a huge difference. So I am excited to be able to bring to the screen with me a gentleman who has been practicing pharmacy. Actually, he's not just been practicing, he's been doing it for what, 4 decades?
1986, I graduated pharmacy school, and I started, I guess, a couple years before that because we had our internship kind of things we had to do. So that's 40 years.
Yes.
Oh my
Well, I
God.
wanted you to say it instead of me. So
A
it just
long
sounds
time.
better whenever
Oh,
you,
holy
you do
moly.
it.
40 years. What the heck? Where does time go? You know, we're not getting
Well,
younger,
it's
Rebecca. That's why it's so important to take advantage of your health if you're healthy today. Take advantage of your health in terms of doing things that allow you to keep your health, because it's a lot easier to keep your health than it is to try to get back to health. Body's a healing system. It always wants to homeostatically adjust to balance and to where it wants to be. But if you're healthy now, don't take it for granted. If you're healthy now, that's when you want to maximize good health strategies like exercise and nutritional supplementation and breathing and relaxation strategies and the mental and emotional and spiritual things that you got to do to stay healthy while you're healthy. When you're sick, yeah, for sure you want to do it, but some of us forget that when we're healthy, that's when it's easiest to really leverage the powers of the strategies that we talk about on this program all the time. So if you're healthy out there, God bless you. Don't take it for granted. Leverage it to keep yourself healthy.
And I'm glad you said don't take it for granted, because I was definitely going to chime in with that.
Yeah.
I was one that, yeah, I had pain, but I thought everybody had pain. But I was at a point where I ate what I wanted to eat. It didn't negatively affect me. At least I didn't think that it did. And then as time went on, I started feeling really old, really old. So I'm glad that I found longevity, and because it has been a solution to many things for me, things that were said to be genetic, things that were degenerative. And I'm so thankful and blessed that because of what we do, Pharmacist Ben, I've been able to help myself and help others.
Yes. Yes. And there's no greater joy than helping others, no matter what it
That's
is.
right.
It's a lot more joyful to give love and to give assistance and succor to people who are suffering than it is to give it to ourselves. We always feel better when we help other people. That's why.
Absolutely.
All right.
So,
So I love what you said. I'm kind of taking notes. You said so many good things here. Uh, you know, the mind is very interesting. And this is the biggest problem we have with food. And it's the mind and the brain. Those are two different things. And both the mind and the brain play an outsized role in our eating behaviors. Because from an evolutionary perspective, the biggest problem human beings and animals have and had is to get enough calories. Throughout history, there was a shortage of calories throughout our evolutionary history. For millions of years, hundreds of millions of years, there weren't a lot of calories and starvation was a real thing. Over the last 10,000, 5,000, really at an accelerated pace over the last 100 years or so, we've created an environment where we don't have a shortage of calories, we have an excess of calories, but the body hasn't quite adjusted to that. From a body perspective, from a human being perspective, if you consider that the human body is 2 million years old, 100 years is like 1 minute to midnight on a 24-hour clock. So we're only at the very, 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 very tip of our evolutionary lifespan. If you consider 2 million year old lifespan, the last 100 years represents nothing, represents a minute, maybe even a few seconds. And the brain and the body haven't adjusted to our new world, to this world with an abundance of calories, which is only, as I say, 100, 150 years old. So we're still running our brain energy, our neurology, based on an environment where there wasn't a lot of calories. So our brain is absolutely devoted to seeking calories. And this calorie-seeking behavior that we have is not only taken advantage of by food processors that have all these foods available to us through calories, but even worse, through scientists who know how to manipulate those drives through chemicals that mimic the pleasure that we get from calories, so-called excitotoxins and sweeteners and salt and fat duplicates or analogs, not real salt and fat, but analogs to salt and fat. So consequently, we have a food supply that's not only high calorie, which hits all our high calorie buttons, but it's also high satisfying, at least in the initial sense, because it hits our happy buttons, our pleasure buttons, our reward chemistry. In fact, some of these molecules they call excitotoxins, which has two components or two parts to the word, excito and toxin. Toxin because these chemicals are poisonous, they're toxins, but excito is the real problem. An excitotoxin is a poisonous molecule that makes your brain go, yippee! Obviously, that's a problem. Our brain is actually happy, or happy chemistry is activated by poisons in foods. So for all of these reasons, high calorie, excitotoxins, manipulation, in combination with our very, very unsatisfying way that we live, most people, I would say, as Thoreau said, Henry David Thoreau said in the middle of the 19th century, most men, he said, but most people live lives of quiet desperation. And this is how maybe you can relate to that. Certainly you want to put yourself in your neighbor's place, your customer's place, your client's place, because this is how most of us live. We're looking for pleasure because we don't have pleasure in our lives ordinarily. We have stress in our life. We have credit card bills. We got problems with our families. We've got things that we hear about on the news. We got all kinds of issues in our lives. And if we have an option to eat to make our problems go away, it's very hard to turn that down. And here's a little experiment you could do for you guys who want to lose weight or you guys who want to control your eating behavior. Just notice something. The next time it's time to eat, the next time you feel like you want to eat, check in with yourself. Put your attention in your belly and then put your attention in your brain or your head and see where your desire to eat is coming from. If it's coming from your belly, it's going to have a different feeling than if it's coming from your head. And what you'll find is most of the time we eat from our head. We say things like, oh, that sounds good, or oh, that looks good. When we think about food, we think about how it sounds and we think about how it looks. We're thinking about our food. If you go to the restaurant, you look at the menu and you say something like, oh, well, I don't know what I want to eat. I had that yesterday. Or I'm sick of tuna fish sandwiches. I want something different. You're not hungry. If you are wondering what you can make for dinner because you're bored with everything you've eaten before, you're not hungry. And that's not to say that anybody's wrong here. This is just to say that there's a point of power, a point of leverage that we have. Eating has a double-edged nature. Obviously, you have to eat, but it's also eating the hardest thing our body has to deal with. When you eat when we eat any food, lettuce, cucumber, anything so-called good foods, it activates a whole slew of chemistry that's involved with the immune system. Immune system is our inflammatory system, and there's a condition called postprandial inflammation. Prandial means eating or meals. Postprandial inflammation is the inflammation that occurs in the body after meals, or after food, after any food, good food. And if we are eating past the point where our body wants food, that's only going to amplify the inflammation. Now, as probably everybody on this call knows, inflammation is what disease is about, what illness is about, what biochemical distortions or disturbances are about. Inflammation is the calling card of the immune system. It's how the immune system shows up. The immune system is your defense system, so inflammation is how defense shows up. Inflammation, we throw this word around a lot, and I know probably most of you guys have heard me talk about it, but it's really important to reinforce what inflammation really is. It's a beaver's dam. It's a cushion. It's an airbag. It surrounds and protects damaged tissue or microscopically damaged cells. That inflammation blocks things from getting through. The same thing that protects you can also present problems, like an airbag. An airbag can kill people, but obviously can protect people too. Inflammation can kill you, but obviously has a protective aspect to it as well. Every time we eat food, our immune system goes into an alert status, no matter what that food is, as it should, because something is coming in from the something's coming in from the outside and getting into the inside. That's what defense system's supposed to do. It's supposed to protect us from things that are coming in from the outside and getting into the inside. So by its very nature, food is going to activate defenses, which means you want to eat as little as possible to have as little immune activation and as little inflammatory biochemistry kicking in as possible. Now, this is true for everybody, but it's especially true if you're already immune activated, if you're already inflammatory. This should just be common sense here. Just think about this. If you're already unstable, if your body's already hyper defensive, if the immune system is already activated, say you have some kind of long-term chronic inflammatory health challenge, when you eat, you're just going to have more inflammation. You're going to have more immune activation. And that's going to tip you over the edge even more. That's why I always say, the less you eat, the longer you live. This is why when you have a health challenge that involves inflammation, which all health challenges do, and you stop eating, for the most part, most people will feel better because you stop at that inflammatory activation. In fact, Dr. Terry Walls, who we've talked about many times, wrote a book called The Walls Protocol, where she talks about curing yourself of multiple sclerosis by fasting. And this is what fasting is really all about. It's stopping the stream of immune activation, stopping the stream of inflammatory inducement, inflammatory activation, secondary to things getting into the blood through the digestive system. Recently, an article came out about the relationship between junk food and cancer, colorectal cancer. Colorectal cancers and all GI cancers, gastrointestinal cancers, are the fastest rate rising cancers in terms of incidence as well as in terms of death, among the fastest rising cancers in terms of incidence and in terms of death. And even worse and even scarier, these colorectal cancers that are going up highest in young people. Colorectal cancer used to affect older people. Now it's affecting more and more young people. Well, this should just be common sense when you look at our food supply. The problem with our foods is we are producing foods and we are eating foods not to satisfy hunger or not to satisfy physical hunger, but to satisfy mental hunger. Next time you're really, really hungry, in fact, if you just don't eat all day and just decide you're going to eat at night, eat at 6 or 7 o'clock at night, make your food. You haven't eaten all day, or even if you want to fast for 2 days, make the food, put it on a plate, and you could be so hungry you haven't eaten for a day or you haven't eaten for 2 days, and you put the food in front of you and start eating the food. Notice when you're satisfied. And if you're paying attention, you will notice that even in the most severe cases of hunger, aside from starvation, the most severe cases of hunger where you haven't eaten for a day or you haven't eaten since the day before, you'll notice that all you need is 1 or 2 or 3 bites and you're full and you're satisfied. And every bite after that represents work for the body. Every bite that you eat after you're satisfied represents a burden on the body, something the body now has to deal with. Fortunately, there's all kinds of biochemical processes that kick in that will allow the body to deal with this excess food, these excess calories, this excess energy. I'll talk about that in a second because that's really what it's all about here. And that's, if you start adding that up, that's where aging comes in. Accelerated aging to the extent that we eat past the point when we're hungry. That's why I always say, and every study that's ever been done on longevity shows the less we eat, the longer we live. So what is this about eating that's such a problem? Well, there's 2 ways that eating's a problem. Number 1, normally, and number 2, abnormally. Normally, under normal conditions, any food represents energy. The body's main job is to deal with energy. You put energy into the system, and the body has to take that energy and dampen it. Body is a very finely tuned system. And if you stick a bunch of energy into a finely tuned system, you could get a short circuit. You can burn out the circuits. Fortunately, through evolution, we have biochemical processes that keep that from happening. However, those biochemical processes are work, and they require nutrition. It takes nutrients to dampen the energy from food. Now, if the food has nutrients in it, that's not a problem. And from an evolutionary perspective, every time we ate food, it had nutrients in it. Food contained the exact balance of nutrients to help the physical form, the physical body, use the calories for millennia. When we ate a food, it had nutrients in it. A food is made up of two components. It has calories and it has nutrition. The calories are represented by protein, fat, and carbohydrates. The nutrition is represented by the mighty 90 essential nutrients. And really, we should say macronutrients and micronutrients. They're all nutrition. The macronutrients, the big nutrients, are protein, fats, and carbohydrates. And those are caloric. Those contain energy. The micronutrients, micro meaning small, the vitamins, the minerals, the amino acids, the fatty acids, the mighty 90 essential nutrients, have no calories. Let me say that again. You have the macronutrients, they have the calories. The micronutrients don't have calories. The macronutrients, the proteins, fats, and carbohydrates, have energy. Calories are energy. The micronutrients, the vitamins, the minerals, the fatty acids, and the amino acids, have no energy, no calories. The job of the micronutrients is to carry energy. It's to transport the energy into biochemical reactions. So under normal circumstances, and when we're eating normally and we're eating the way the body's supposed to eat, which we did for thousands of years, millions of years, every time we got energy into the body, we got the carriers of that energy. The macronutrients, the protein, fats, and carbohydrates went into the system. The vitamins and minerals and amino acids and fatty acids transported that energy, carried that energy into biochemical reactions. And that's what's supposed to happen. However, because our need for calories was so critical, the body developed a system, the brain actually, through evolution, developed a system where we would feel rewarded and reward chemicals would be secreted every time we got calories. So as soon as we figured out how to industrially process food, we figured that if we could get calories without nutrients, we could get really, really happy. Because it was the calories that was making us happy. It wasn't the micronutrients. The vitamins don't make you happy. The amino acids and the minerals don't make us happy. It's the calories that make us happy. And it wasn't long before food producers figured if we just got calories, we could be happy. Not healthy, but happy. And because we don't eat, as time moved on, we didn't eat to be healthy. We ate to be happy. It was very simple for food producers to produce food that was super high calorie and not have to worry about the vitamins, the minerals, and the amino acids and the fatty acids. Calories are relative to nutrients are cheap. These days, it wasn't always the case. So we've created a food supply that's super high in calories because it makes us feel happy without the nutrients, and most of us are subsisting on that. Think about the last time you ate. You'll notice, if you're like most people, possibly on this call, there's exceptions here, but most people will notice that when they ate, they didn't eat foods that would make them, they didn't choose the foods that they ate because it made them healthy. They chose the foods that they ate because it made them happy. Is that not true? When you make a food decision, aren't you deciding what to eat by what makes you happy versus what makes you healthy? And again, there's people on this call probably are a little bit different, but for most people, we're eating to be happy, not to be healthy. Happy foods make us happy because they're high energy. Foods make us happy because they're high calorie. Foods don't make us happy because notice they're eating less food, because now they have the micronutrients that the body can that will allow the body to leverage those calories, to take advantage of those calories. If we eat foods that don't have micronutrients, and then the body gets calories but no nutrients, it doesn't know what to do with those. And because those high energy nutrients disturb the biochemistry of the body, in the long run, these high energy foods will rev up the system. Now, there are mechanisms to keep the body from getting revved up too much, and those systems involve body fat. Body fat is energy in suspended animation. It's energy that's trapped. From an evolutionary perspective, that energy is trapped for use later on. But these days, we don't use that energy. We just consistently store that energy. And as we're sending a stream of energy and a stream of calories in, our body is converting all that energy to fat. The fastest way to keep that from happening is to provide the body with the resources that allow it to use the energy rather than store the energy. And that's the Mighty 90 Essential Nutrients. The Mighty 90 Essential Nutrients, micronutrients, vitamins, minerals, amino acids, and fatty acids, can be thought of as the carriers of the energy that's in food. By carrying the energy in food into biochemical reactions, into making collagen, into supporting the immune system, into producing various tissues, into running the heart and the digestive system and the spleen and all the other parts of the body, the micronutrients allow the body to direct all that energy into running it. Without the micronutrients, that doesn't happen. And the reason why you read these articles lately, and they've been coming out now for a long time, how junk food is associated with excessive inflammation. Junk food is associated with cancer. Junk food is associated with anxiety. Junk food is associated with increases in body fat, is because junk food is by definition food that has calories without nutrition. Calories that are divorced from nutrition, or foods that contain calories that are divorced from nutrition, are called junk foods. Foods that have the perfect balance of calories to nutrition are called whole foods. Nutritional supplementation is one strategy that we can use to make a junk food more similar to a whole food. Now, you're not going to be able to, these days, our junk foods have so many toxic chemicals in them, in addition to just being separate, just purely calories. You're not going to be able to completely override the damage of a junk food diet with nutritional supplementation, but you can still minimize the damage. Ideally, however, you want to eat foods that contain a balance of calories to nutrition, and even better, you want to eat a food that is nutrient dense, which means it has a higher proportion of micronutrients to calories than an ordinary food. An ordinary food has a balance of calories to nutrition, but a power food or a nutrient-dense food has an even higher ratio of nutrients to calories. Instead of a 1-to-1 nutrients to calories, for example, it's a 2-to-1 or 3-to-1. Things like nutritional yeast or eggs or organ meats. These are examples of power foods, have a higher proportion of nutrients to calories. Even vegetables have a higher proportion of nutrients to calories than an ordinary food, or certainly than a junk food. So when you're selecting foods, you want to select foods that have a high ratio of nutrients to calories, and you'll find that you're able to eat less calories. If you're eating foods that have a lower ratio of nutrients to calories, you can raise that ratio by using nutritional supplementation. And in fact, one of the best things you could do with your meals, if you want to eat less food, is drink Beyond Tangy Tangerine with your meals. By using Beyond Tangy Tangerine with your meals, you'll be bumping up the nutritional value of the foods that you're eating. And if you're like most people and you're eating cooked foods or processed foods or fast foods or junk foods, that's going to help reestablish the balance and turn those less valuable foods or less nutrient-dense foods into what's, in effect, nutrient-rich foods. When the whole thing gets crushed up in your body or in your stomach and your digestive system will have a higher amount of nutrients relative to the calories that you ate. This is a very, very powerful health strategy for folks who are dealing with health challenges, folks who aren't dealing with health challenges but just want to have an extended lifespan, or anybody. Increasing your nutrients to calories is a major strategy for improving overall health because, number one, you'll have more nutrients available to help you process the food. Number two, you'll find yourself eating less food. And number three, you'll be able to turn your your less valuable foods into, in essence, what is in essence nutrient-dense foods. Now we come to convenience and fast foods. We have a really big problem. Everybody knows that junk foods, eating candy bars and cakes and whatever, cookies and dessert type foods, pies and such. Everybody knows those are junk foods, but what we don't realize is McDonald's hamburgers and French fries and fried fats, fried fish. Those are also, even though those are foods that we eat for dinner, we don't eat those as desserts. We eat those as part of meals. Those are also problematic foods for a lot of reasons. Number one, when it comes to fast foods, there are chemicals that are put in those foods to keep us eating. Food manufacturers are interested in keeping us eating. This is why, by the way, we call these foods fast foods. Not because they cook them fast, but because we eat them fast. Not because they're served to us at the counter at McDonald's or Chick-fil-A really fast, but because we eat them fast. And this fast eating is encouraged by food producers and food manufacturers by putting chemicals in the food that create what's called slip. They literally call it throat slip. And this throat slip assures the producer as well as the consumer that eating will occur consistently. When you eat foods that require less work to chew, you'll find you're eating more foods. And in fact, one of the best strategies that you can use to eat less foods is to chew your foods more. If you have to work for your food, you're not going to eat as much. Foods that require more chewing are foods that are more satisfying. That's why fast food manufacturers want you swallowing the food, so you eat more of it. So the next time you get a McDonald's hamburger or Chick-fil-A or French fries or whatever junk food you like, or whatever fast food you like, try eating it slowly. What you'll find is, number one, you're eating a lot less food, but number two, you'll find that the food is nowhere near as tasty. An apple, you want to savor. If you ever eat an apple and you eat it slowly, it gets more delicious. If you eat a McDonald's hamburger and you eat it slowly, it gets disgusting. Try it. Try eating your McDonald's hamburger super slowly and feel that gristle and that saltiness and all that stuff in the meat. You'll be repulsed. But if you eat it fast, you don't even notice it. A junk food or a processed food, a food that your body doesn't want, is not going to be tasty if you eat it slowly. But if you eat a banana or you eat an apple, and it'll slide down your throat real quickly so you can eat more. These kinds of strategies, the excitotoxins, the softeners in the foods, the sugar and the activators of reward chemistry in the foods, that the things we're eating are spiked with, literally spiked with, should make us so angry. We should be so pissed off, excuse my French, ticked off at McDonald's or at Burger King or Chick-fil-A. We should be so angry that they even exist. A healthy culture would not have McDonald's in it. That we would never drive through the Golden Arches or drive through the drive-through section at Chick-fil-A. You know, when I went to, I've told this story before, but it's very instructive and it's really important. When they had that whole scandal 4 years ago with, everybody was, I don't even want to talk about what it was exactly, but you guys know what I was talking about. People were standing 6 feet apart from each other and they didn't want to touch the money because there was all kinds of germs on the money and they might get disease from the money, and had to wear masks everywhere and had to get inoculated because the little government was telling you had to get inoculated to save lives, blah, blah, blah. And there's this disconnect that we have between how strong and how vital and how resilient our body can and should be, and the ingestion of junk foods and fast foods and acceptable foods that we call treats. And this is a very tricky road to hoe because nobody wants to hear about food. Because when we hear people talk to us about food, we think of our mother saying, eat your vegetables. We become infantilized. We become like children. And when you're a child, you don't want anybody. You want to eat your ice cream. You want to eat your sweets. You want to eat your dessert. And somebody comes along and says, don't eat that. It's bad for you. You're going to resent it and resist it. And that's why you got to be really careful with food. But at the same time, we have to begin to understand that we have to respect our food. We have to treat our food like it's medicine. And that's what Hippocrates meant when he said, let food be thy medicine and let medicine be thy food. Steve Jobs said, if you don't treat your food as medicine, you're going to be treating your medicine as food. We have to understand the power of food from a medicinal standpoint, from a drug-like standpoint. Food has drug-like properties. And if it gets confusing and you say, oh my God, what am I supposed to eat? I can't eat this, I can't eat that. Here's your answer. Eat less. Whatever you're eating, eat less. The human body needs 1,000 to 1,200 calories a day for most people, unless you're recovering from surgery or you're pregnant or you're an athlete. For most of us, we need 1,000 to 1,200 calories a day. We're getting 3,000 to 4,000 calories a day. A Big Mac has almost 1,000 calories in it. A Whopper probably has more than 1,000 calories in it. 2 or 3 slices of pizza have 1,000 calories in it. One of the best ways to eat is called the ketogenic diet. And everybody, when most people do the ketogenic diet, they do it wrong. The reason the ketogenic diet is the best way to eat is because the ketogenic diet is a low-calorie diet where most of the calories come from fat. The reason people like the ketogenic diet, who don't know about the ketogenic diet or like the way it sounds, is because it sounds like you can eat a lot of fat. And this is what people think when they hear the ketogenic diet, because most of the calories come from fat. 80% of their calories come from fat. Oh, wow. Bacon and French fries and potato chips and cheese and pizza. And that sounds great, right? No, the ketogenic diet is a high percentage of calories coming from fat, but it's an overall low, calorie. It's an overall low calorie diet. Is that just
Right. Hopefully he comes back because he is on a roll. So, folks, think about it. What are you eating? What are you fueling?
Hey, can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
That was very weird. I don't know what happened there.
I suspended everyone's activities due to the pornographic video that was being shown.
How did that even happen?
I don't know.
Okay. All right. Anyway, so I kind of lost my train of thought. That's why if you're confused about what to eat less food. The ketogenic diet is the ideal way to eat because it's a low calorie diet where a high percentage of your calories come from fat, but your overall calories are 1,000 to 1,200 calories. And if you don't think that's possible to enjoy, to be satisfied with 1,000 to 1,200 calories, it's only because you're eating for non-body reasons. We're eating for mental reasons. The mind is never satisfied with calories. If you want to, I lost about 50 pounds a few years ago. And the way I lost 50 pounds was every time I wanted to eat, I checked in with my digestive system. I checked in with my belly. And I found that most of the time when I thought I wanted to eat, my belly was saying, don't eat. The mind is never satisfied. The belly or the digestive system or the body are satisfied with very little calories. And if you want to eat, if you're having a hard time eating very little calories, up your nutritional supplementation. The reason why colon cancers and GI cancers are linked to the ingestion of junk food is because of A, the super high calories. And make no mistake about it, the two major reasons why the immune system becomes hyperactive, two of the, not the two, but two of the major reasons are ingestion of high calories and the stream of toxicity that enters into the digestive system through a leaky gut. We talked about histamine in the past as a major stimulant, a rev you up chemical. That's why antihistamines put you to sleep. Histamines speed things up, and sugar and insulin speeds things up. Cancer is a speeding up of metabolism. It's a hyperactivity of metabolism. Insulin and sugar and toxicity that gets into the digestive system through a leaky gut, particularly the molecule histamine, are both major drivers of cancers. Local cancers, foods that are that cause digestive cancers, cause a revving up of chemistry locally in the intestine. But all cancers, as well as excess growths that aren't cancers, like polyps and cysts and growths and boils, are also associated with elevated insulin and elevated blood sugar and histamine. And so for all of these reasons, food represents a major leverage point, a major control point for helping the body stay healthy, for reducing the symptoms, as well as the biochemistry that's associated with inflammatory diseases, and for increasing longevity. And this is why cultures that eat less calories tend to live longer. And this is why every study that's ever been done on longevity associates caloric restriction with increased longevity. Now, caloric restriction means eating less food. Intermittent fasting means taking spaces off from food. When you take spaces or a time off from food, this is what intermittent fasting is, whether that intermittent fasting is between your last meal on Monday and your next meal on Tuesday, or if it's a whole day off, or if it's eating breakfast and then not eating again till the end of the day, that space between the input of calories into the body, number one, calms the body down. Number two, it turns on the chemistry of fat burning. And the body gets more bang for its buck, for its energy buck, by getting energy from fat versus sugar. So you get a calming effect. You get a cleaner, long-acting, slow-burning form of energy. And you also get a detoxification. A lot of folks are interested in detox. We got some great detox products. I love Dr. Ariaz's Liver Cleanse, one of my favorite detox products. But you know what? Fasting is the ultimate detox. Number one, you're not putting toxicity into the body. Number one, you're not putting toxicity into the body. And number two, when you're not putting any food in the body starts to activate the cleaning process called autophagy. It also activates the cleaning of the digestive tract, and this is why people have great bowel movements after they fast. So fasting, whether you do it for a whole day or a couple days, or intermittent fasting, whether you do it between your bang for its buck by burning fat, and you activate detoxification processes, including autophagy and cleaning out of the digestive tract. So fasting represents a major, major, major health strategy. Using nutrients with your meals, like Beyond Tangy Tangerine, sipping on Beyond Tangy Tangerine with your meals, or doing Beyond Tangy Tangerine before you start your meal, or starting your meals off with vegetables. That's another great strategy. If you start your meal off with vegetables versus bread, which is what most people do, you'll find that you're filled up quicker. You're getting nutrients that will help the body process the foods to come later, and that includes enzymes if you're eating raw vegetables or slightly steamed vegetables. And there's a psychological effect to starting your meals off with vegetables. You're less likely to eat foods that are not as healthy for you if you start off your meals with veggies. Getting on a nutritional supplement program in general is an awesome strategy for helping you wean yourself off of high-calorie fast foods or wean yourself off of chronic eating behaviors. And then, last but not least, using digestive enzymes with your meals. Using your ultimate enzymes with your meals, and perhaps some apple cider vinegar, something to acidify the stomach even further. There is a little bit of stomach acid in your ultimate enzymes. That will help you get more nutritional value from your foods and also create satiety, satisfaction. You'll be satisfied quicker. And then last but not least, the chemistry the happy chemistry that kicks in when we eat calories can also be activated by life satisfaction. You may have heard that when people are in love, they don't eat as much food. You may have noticed that when you're doing something that you're passionate about, you almost forget to eat. You may have noticed that when you're at the beach and you're out in the sun, that you don't feel like eating as much. Because when we get satisfaction from nature, or we get satisfaction from our interpersonal relationships, or we get satisfaction from our jobs or our lives or our hobbies or things that we love to do, we don't need to get satisfaction from our calories. So if you have an issue eating food, overeating, number one, you can hack into that through nutritional supplementation. Number two, you can hack into it through digestive support supplements pre-meals, like digestive enzymes or your Beyond Tang and Tangerine. And number three, you can hack into it by getting biochemical reward, activating reward chemistry, things like turning on your dopamine or perhaps your serotonin, by enjoying your life, finding something you're passionate about, walking in nature, doing something that feels like you're being rewarded, completing a project, cleaning the garage, helping a neighbor, helping an old person, a loved one. All of these are ways that you can feel satisfied without enjoying calories. And most importantly, remember, fast food and processed food manufacturers are not your friends. They don't love you. They don't care about you. In fact, not only are they not your friends, but from a health perspective, they're our enemies. And every time we walk into McDonald's or we indulge in the corporate swill that comes in boxes and that comes in cans and that comes in all kinds of packaging that you got to rip open at the grocery store, we're indulging or we're helping the enemy. We're encouraging our enemies. These kinds of manufacturing has to be considered as not our friends, but our enemies. Get rewards from somewhere else, use nutritional supplementation, eat less food, activate the ketogenic diet, or activate ketogenesis with the ketogenic diet. Use satisfying foods like fats, which are very satisfying, real fats, quality fats, fats from eggs, fats from dairy, fats from organ meats, fats from fish. These kinds of fats are quality fats. Stay away from processed fats. These are all incredible strategies. But the one thing you need that in order to take advantage of all these strategies we're talking about is the same thing that you need to reverse any chronic health challenge. People ask me, what's one thing I should do? What's one thing I need to do? The one thing you need if you want to take advantage of all these strategies, and don't underestimate the importance of this, the one thing you need is willingness. You gotta want it. If you want it and you leverage all of these strategies, you'll find you're eating less food, you'll find you have more energy, and you'll find that if you have any kind of inflammatory health condition, that the symptoms and ultimately the condition is starting to subside and you're getting relief. There's one more thing I want to say. There's a reason why you feel tired after you eat. It's because after we eat foods, we're rerouting the blood from our brain to our digestive system. Do you know there's countries where the whole country shuts down after lunch? They call it a siesta. You're not supposed to need a siesta after lunch. You're not supposed to need a nap after you eat. After we eat, we should be recharged. After we eat, we should have energy. We can put energy into the system. If you feel like you're tired after you eat, that's because we've eaten the wrong foods or we've eaten too much of those foods. So not only will you feel better, not only will you be losing weight, but you'll also have more energy when you practice intermittent fasting and caloric restriction. And of course, if you're dealing with an inflammatory health challenge, the symptoms of that will subside as well. All right, that's my talk on fats here, or on food.
Food, talking on food, yes. So there's so much, Ben, that goes into food as far as the good, the bad, how it affects us in a positive manner, in a negative manner. And you are absolutely right. The processed food manufacturing companies
they're the enemy. They're the enemy, and we want to see them as the enemy. Let me say one last thing. This is kind of interesting. I meant to read this article here. This is from Science Daily. Fast food makes the immune system more aggressive in the long term. The immune system, from the University of Bonn, Germany, the immune system reacts similarly to a high-fat and high-calorie diet as to a bacterial infection. How do you like that? The immune system,
wow,
right? It's like you're actually turning on anti-infection or immune chemistry when you eat these kinds of foods. If you already have an immune problem, that's just going to add fuel to the fire. Oh, actually, that's from the journal Cell. Actually, anybody wants this article? Anybody wants this article to show your distributor? Send me an email, ben@ksco.com, and I'll send this to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Consider that I already sent you an email about it. Okay.
Okay, then I'll
Thanks.
consider I already sent it to you. Actually,
well,
I'm gonna put a link to it in the chat. That's what I'll do.
Oh, fantastic.
Okay, go ahead.
So you had mentioned that it turns on the immune system. And when we're turning on the immune system, that's not always a good thing, except from the sounds of it.
No, it's not a good thing to turn on the immune system. You only want to turn on the immune system if you have a need, if you have an infection. The immune system is good if you have an infection or you have something attacking the body, but you don't want the immune system chronically activated. The immune system is only supposed to kick in and then stop. The immune system is supposed to kick in, do its inflammatory business, and then calm down. That's what's supposed to happen. Chronic activation of the immune system is what leads to chronic inflammation, is what leads to chronic disease. So it's the chronic nature of the immune system. The immune system is your best friend. Thank God we have inflammation. That's why I always say inflammation is important. You need inflammation. We have this idea that inflammation is a bad guy. No, it's not a bad guy. Chronic inflammation is the problem. Inflammation that's below the threshold. What's supposed to happen is inflammation hits a threshold, and once it hits that threshold, anti-inflammation kicks in. Some of you may have heard that omega-3 fat or omega-6 fats are inflammatory. Have you heard that? You don't want omega-6 fats.
I've heard that.
You hear some of these a little knowledge is a dangerous thing. And unfortunately, some alternative practitioners have a little knowledge, which is dangerous. And they'll say, oh, omega-3 fats, you get too many of those, or omega-6 fats, you get too many of those are inflammatory. Well, guess what? You don't get anti-inflammation without inflammation. Inflammation turns on anti-inflammation, but it has to hit a threshold. If it's under that threshold, you don't get the anti-inflammation. So it's the drip inflammation that's the problem. Once you reach a threshold with inflammation, omega-6 fats are inflammatory, that's true, but they're supposed to kick in with the anti-inflammation. When we get low levels of inflammation, that's where the problem is. Long-term, chronic, drip inflammation is the issue. As far as omega-6 fats go, if you hear anybody say that the American diet has too many omega-6 fats, that's not true. The American diet is filled with oils that contain omega-6 fats in their natural state. But nobody eats oils in their natural state. Oils are processed, oils are cooked, oils are heated, oils are fried. Those oils have no omega-6s in them, even if they are corn oil or soy oil or sesame oil or oils that should have omega-6s in it. So most of us don't get enough of either. And this is why the essential fatty acids are so important, because that gives you both the inflammatory and anti-inflammatory fats. And inflammation is not a bad thing. It's chronic, low-level inflammation that is the problem.
Absolutely. And folks, we're here because of a man that started this whole crusade, and that is Dr. Joel Wallach. And Dr. Wallach has his most recent book, which he's been holding up, wanting to say something, is about the metabolic syndrome, where it is addressing chronic inflammation in so many different parts of the body. And we don't really think about the metabolic syndrome when it comes to some of these things, like impaired growth, learning disabilities,
right,
hyperactivity,
right,
the triglycerides, cholesterol, and plaque.
All of it.
All of it.
All of it. That's why metabolic syndrome is called metabolic syndrome. It affects metabolism, all your metabolism, especially, by the way, the liver and the kidneys, two parts of the body that seem to be especially where people seem to have particular problems with the liver and the kidneys. Those are metabolic syndrome issues.
Absolutely. So folks, grab this book by Dr. Joel Wallach, The Metabolic Syndrome. You can find it on his website, drjwallach.com. We only have 5 minutes and we have 5 hands up.
Okay, let's do it real quick. Speed questions.
All right. And I do have a hard stop because I have an airplane to catch. Okay. So, Marilyn, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Okay. I've got a client, 69 years old, 137 pounds. has been having trouble with breathing, memory problems, all sorts of problems.
Wait a minute, it's problem breathing? She's too
Breathing,
old to be breathing.
right. Breathing, dementia,
Okay.
lapses, insomnia.
So
Now,
many things there. That sounds like
yes.
her system is revved up.
Okay, so I've got her on several longevity products, but she continues to take 3 breathing medications.
Well,
And,
she can take
and I
whatever
can't
she
get her
wants.
off of them.
Well, you don't have to. She can take whatever she wants. It's a free country. She should take whatever she wants. But that's not helping her solve the problem. However, I'd have to ask you a lot more questions before I address any of those. But all of those sound like stuff is getting into her blood inappropriately. Anxiety, problems sleeping, problems breathing, all sound like immune activation and inflammation. And that comes from a steady stream of toxins that enters into the blood through the intestine. So is this your client, or are you just reading?
Yes, no, it's my client, and
Get
she's
her foods.
gluten-free.
No, forget gluten-free. Forget gluten-free. Gluten is one of a trillion. No, a bazillion. No, a gazillion, trillion, bazillion chemicals that it could be. So yes, gluten's a problem. Absolutely, for some people, for a lot of people, actually.
Okay, she's no fried foods. You know, she listens to Dr. Wallach.
That's great, Marilyn. Do you ever hear the saying, where there's smoke, there's fire?
Yeah.
What if I had a smoke in my house and I said, but I have asbestos, but I have a fire. I checked for fire. You say, it doesn't matter, Ben. You got smoke. That means you got a fire. Okay. But I checked. I have put asbestos in the walls. I can't have a fire. You got smoke. You got a fire. You know what I'm saying? So if she has inflammatory symptoms, and all of those are immune activation and inflammatory, anxiety, problems sleeping, problems breathing. Asthma is a classic example of immune activation, and it's known that kids who have asthma have dairy allergies, or they'll have eczema.
But her allergists say she has no allergies, and her lungs show no mucus.
No, well, does she have? What does problem breathing mean? Does she have emphysema or some kind of?
No signs of any of that. She just says she can't breathe. She reaches for the inhalers.
Well, an inhaler is an immune suppressant. How does an inhaler work? It suppresses the immune system. That's how an inhaler works. It's steroids, I assume, a steroid inhaler. Yes. It's an immune suppressant. So why would a steroid...
Atrovent and Elvesco.
Yeah, why would a steroid help her if she didn't have inflammation? You understand what I'm saying? And it's anti-inflammatory, so if a steroid helps her, she has inflammation. Inflammation is immunity. This is all logic. Mm-hmm. This is kind of logical, you know. It's this. You want to think of health as being logical.
I asked her if she did a food, and she said she did, but she can't remember which food. So I'm thinking, well, when did she do it?
That's because of the dementia issues. Let me talk to her. It's a little bit more than I can tell you in a minute here, but I'm happy to talk to her. Also, blood sugar issues will also cause mental health, dementia. She said she has.
She said she watches the blood sugar too. So,
well, you know, smoke, there's fire.
I know,
right?
Okay.
All right. Thank you so much, Marilyn. Let's go
one more real quick
to the next hand. And AJ, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hey, Pharmacist Ben. Just gonna go real quick. 78-year-old male took a stool test, shows microscopic particles of blood in his stool, constant constipation, straining and pushing.
Not good. None of that's good. None of that's good.
Is there a blood test for detecting colon cancer?
Well, yeah, that absolutely he'd be tested for colon cancer. Probably should if it's been going on a long time. But for folks who are dealing with these kinds of issues, chronic constipation, which is an epidemic, number one, fasting will activate the migrating motor complex, which propels food out of the body. Chronic grazing is one of the worst things we could do in terms of bowel health and intestinal health and digestive health in general, not to mention all the inflammatory and immune activating effects that food that we just talked about. So fasting. Anybody who's dealing with chronic constipation, take a day off from food. Number one, that's the first thing to do. Number two, there's a wonderful B vitamin, which the Beyond Tangy Tangerine is absolutely packed with. And that's called thiamine. And I would be using the Beyond Tangy Tangerine, especially like throughout the day. Beyond Tangy Tangerine has a nice laxative effect. Also, the Rainforest product also has a laxative effect. The Osteomag can help. And then the CFX, the vitamin C FX, that also has a laxative effect. So, and then the last thing is look for specific foods that are clogging. Gluten can be clogging. Grains in general can be clogging. Eggs can be clogging for some people, and dairy can be clogging for some people. So look for specific foods that are clogging him up. And if he's at the point now where there's blood in his stool, that means there's you got to take really serious corrective measures. I would try the fasting, and I would also try the Beyond Tangy Tangerine.
Ben, and I know Becca's got to go, but we got like 30 other questions people are asking.
I know, I told you, AJ, we should just do questions. You said no. I told AJ this morning, let's do questions.
It was just question.
What?
AJ, I thought we were just going to do questions today.
I thought so too. AJ, you messed up, buddy. No, I'm just
Whoops.
No. Becca, you can go. You want me to stay and ask a couple questions? Okay, all right. We can just next week all questions. Next week all questions.
Right.
All
yeah,
right.
so if I go, that stops the stream, and then people out on YouTube miss out. And we had so much information that was shared. Thank you so much for touching on the foods and how they react within the bodies. Folks, it really does matter. It really, really does matter what you put in your mouth and how your body is going to respond. So if you've got some things going on in your body, you got to take a day off of eating.
Take a day off.
Just as Pharmacist Ben has said, take a day off of eating, do a food journal, find out how your body is reacting to specific foods. That whole elimination diet, keep track. When you add something back in, what is your body doing? What is it telling you? Listen. Dr. Wallach, thank you so much for being here with us, as well as he's holding up his book, Hell's Kitchen. He has been talking about the metabolic syndrome since 2004. And in his book, Hell's Kitchen, chapter 14, does talk about the metabolic syndrome, in addition to his latest book, which specifically targets all the cluster of things going wrong with symptoms in the body because of this thing that's been called metabolic syndrome. And when I look at it, Pharmacist Ben, you have your my body's falling apart syndrome.
I have what? Say that again.
My body's falling apart
I have
syndrome.
MBFA disease. The only chronic disease is MBFA disease. And that means, because there's only one disease, you can do the same protocol for everything. And metabolic syndrome is like that. It's MBFA disease. And kudos to Doc for new. And I just finished, by the way. So anybody who's a DWD distributor, you're going to get to hear Steve and Michelle, as well as I think Scott Fardulis. Is Dr. Ariaza going to be there too, I think? Or maybe not?
I don't know if Dr. Arias is going to be there, but I know Paul Croto is going to be there, who has a master's in nutrition, very instrumental in being one of the co-founders of the Institute of Health that teaches Dr. Wallach's philosophies and allows people to become a certified holistic health coach, which is something I kind of have a passion about since I'm the director of student services for the Institute of Holistic Health. But a lot of information, folks, that we can take and use within our own lives, share with others. Yes, thank you, Dr. Wallach. The metabolic syndrome, and it's a companion to It's All in Your Head. So, folks, if you have It's All in Your Head and you love it, you definitely want to get the metabolic syndrome as well. Well, I just have a little bit of time to say thank you to my co-hosts. We have Ruth Ellen, who's keeping everything going. Thank you, Ruth Ellen. We have Marilyn, who's put an amazing dictation into the chat. Thank you. We have Rod, who's watching cameras, helping let people in. Thank you, Rod. We have Phyllis, who's out watching all the different platforms, bringing questions in. And we do take pictures of the questions that come through the chat. So if we did not get to your question, please email us questions@DailywithDoc.com. We will get answers for you. We have Albert way down in South Africa helping to watch cameras, let people in as well. We have Dr. Joel Wallach, who is the founder of this crusade that we as a group are on. And if somebody referred you to this program, they're probably part of that as well, because they found benefit in what he himself has been preaching, teaching. I like teaching better for over 50 years. And we have AJ. AJ, why are you always at the end? Are you the last one to always put your camera up? Maybe, but it's because of AJ that we are on all the different platforms. So thank you so much to all of my team. And this is just a small fraction of the team, but this is the Daily with Doc Zoom team. And I want to do a shout out to all of the coaches, the health advocates, those who are just really have a passion for people and sharing this message. So folks, you heard this message for a reason. Share it, share it, share it. Whether it's to individuals, to a group, does not matter. It's all about taking information, sharing, because sharing is caring. My name is Becca Dukes. Thank you again so much for watching Daily with Doc. Join us next week as we kick off the Monday with Dr. Cara. And she's just, you're going to love her. If you saw her last Monday, Dr. Cara Ringland is amazing, just passionate person for people, for health, and looking at the tools that God has given us to see what's going on within the body so that we know what needs to be done to help stop the degeneration and disease. So folks, this program is not meant to take the place of your primary care physician, nor is it meant to treat, diagnose, or cure any diseases. And Pharmacist Ben hates this, but folks, our bodies are made divinely, that when you give the body what it needs, the body itself can do some amazing things. So until next time, bye for now. This program is for educational purposes only. The content is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any diseases, nor is it intended to take the place of your primary care physician. The statements in this program have not been evaluated by the FDA. Testimonials are shared as individual experiences, and the individual results vary and may not be typical. We do not make any claims regarding health or income. As an empowered individual, you do have options available. We are honored to have a founding father of the science of epigenetics guiding us with the best options to obtain or maintain optimal health. Dr. Joel Wallach. This program is for educational purposes only. The content is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any diseases, nor is it intended to take the place of your primary care physician. The statements in this program have not been evaluated by the FDA. Testimonials are shared as individual experiences, and the individual results vary and may not be typical. We do not make any claims regarding health or income. As an empowered individual, you do have options available. We are honored to have a founding father of the science of epigenetics guiding us with the best options to obtain or maintain optimal health. Dr. Joel Wallach.